What if you created an economy and no one came? Companies across Massachusetts are urgently seeking workers. Consider Takeda, the state's largest life science employer, which is actively working to fill more than 500 positions at all skill levels and locations in Massachusetts, and not just jobs for researchers and scientists. Or Catania Oils and Air, which faces similar staffing challenges. Catania is a rapidly growing packager and processor of plant-based cooking oils that recently added a 52,000 square foot building expansion. The company runs a 3-shift operation, and securing labor continues to be a problem. Finding the right skill levels for machine operators and maintenance personnel has been, quote, quite challenging, and the company has been unable to secure talent for some key roles. There are a multitude of statistics about the state of the Massachusetts workforce, but here are the two you need to know. The Massachusetts Department of Economic Research projects that the number of jobs in the Commonwealth will grow by 21% by 2030. Meanwhile, a new study by the State Department of Transportation finds that the Massachusetts workforce will grow by just 1.5% by 2030. The workforce challenges looming over the Massachusetts economy are dire and immediate. The Commonwealth is sailing into a demographic bomb cyclone, accelerated by COVID-driven fundamental changes in the way people approach work that could leave employers searching for workers at the very time that the Commonwealth seeks to solidify its role as a global center of innovation, commerce, and technology. These challenges exist separate and apart from the ebb and flow of short-term economic cycles. The labor shortage persists even at a time when the nation's economy stands on the brink of a slowdown. Massachusetts employers are already struggling with labor shortages and a lack of qualified talent that has, in some cases, severely impacted day-to-day operations. Companies across all industries, from biotechnology to retail, are unable to fill positions with qualified candidates as the Commonwealth loses workers to lower-cost states. According to the most recent figures, Massachusetts has approximately 115,000 more job openings than unemployed workers, 240,000 openings versus 124,500 unemployed workers. But that is merely a harbinger of things to come. A recent study by Mass Inc. projects that the working age college-educated population of Massachusetts will decrease by 192,000 people by 2030. The Commonwealth will also lose some 92,500 of the working age non-college educated people who drive manufacturing, the building trades, and hospitality and other service industries. It is a foreboding landscape that could in turn inhibit the ability and responsibility of employers to create economic opportunity for the people of Massachusetts. Associated Industries and its members from every sector of the Massachusetts economy are ready with ideas to address the challenge. We also stand ready to work with elected officials, such as Governor Maura Healey, on an issue that should unite business and workers, Democrats and Republicans, conservatives and liberals, and anyone else who cares about the economic future of Massachusetts. The structural shortage of workers is complex. It grows out of a multitude of factors ranging from a slowly growing overall population to the increasing prevalence of remote work to a long-term decline in the participation of Massachusetts residents in the workforce. Consider the following. Massachusetts residents are leaving the state in large numbers. The Commonwealth has lost 750,000 more people than it has gained during the past 3 decades. And that trend is accelerating. 57,292 Massachusetts residents packed their bags between July of 2021 and July of 2022, the 5th largest outmigration of any state in the country. They moved to states with warmer climates, more affordable housing, manageable transportation, and often a better quality of life. Birth rates in Massachusetts are plummeting. The Commonwealth's birth rate is below the national average and the 7th lowest among the states. There will be around 250,000 fewer students moving through Massachusetts high schools between the class of 2020 and the class of 2030. Baby boomers are exiting the labor force. The number of college-educated Massachusetts residents exiting their working age years will be 30% larger in the 2020s than during the 2010s. Nationally, the pandemic drove more than 3 million adults into early retirement, and the number of adults 55 and older being detached from the labor force due to retirement grew from 48.1% in the third quarter of 2019 to 50.3% in the third quarter of 2021. Fewer people are participating in the labor force. There are currently 112,000 fewer people in the Massachusetts labor force than at the peak in June of 2019, a drop of 2.9%. The labor force participation rate in Massachusetts has declined from 67.1% in May of 2019 to 65.1% currently. The Commonwealth maintains only the 13th highest rate of residents aged 16 and older who are employed or actively looking for work. Women are participating in the labor force at the lowest rate since the 1970s. In the spring of 2020, 3.5 million mothers left their jobs, driving the labor force participation rate for working moms from around 70% to 55%. This number is improving, but it has not fully rebounded. Some industries face unique workforce challenges over and above those in the general economy. In healthcare, for example, the Massachusetts Health and Hospital Association reports that nearly 19,000 acute care hospital positions were vacant across practice areas including behavioral health, technicians, laboratory personnel, and clinical support staff. But demographics do not tell the whole story. Workers in the post-COVID world are making different choices, many based on improving their quality of life. If workers and employers face skyrocketing housing, energy, and healthcare costs, on top of transportation challenges and the lack of child care and elder care support, they will begin to look to new locations to work and to raise a family. These challenges have escalated now that remote work has allowed sought-after skilled workers in the technology, biosciences, and service areas to work for Massachusetts companies while living in lower-cost areas. The once symbiotic connection between knowledge-driven industries and the workers who built sophisticated and culturally diverse communities around them is no longer something that we can take for granted. Employees are also starting to ask very human questions about the work that they perform. Why am I doing this? Am I risking my health for a job that requires constant contact with the public? What is a job for? How can we do it better? Many are choosing to leave their jobs, and the competition to attract new talent is more fierce than ever. A recent study by the Massachusetts Taxpayers Foundation summarized, and I quote, "The effects of COVID on the workplace, in combination with the already high cost of living and doing business in the state, make it extremely challenging to recruit and maintain the skilled workforce that is essential to growth. As a result, the long-held belief that Massachusetts' talent base would always anchor our economy is breaking down, and the concentration of high-skilled jobs that tethered our highly educated workforce to Massachusetts has begun to fray. Governor Maura Healey, speaking to the AIM Executive Forum in January, summed up the challenge in this way.
We are the greatest state in this country. We are the greatest state in this country. I also know we have to be honest about the realities. And the fact is, Massachusetts is expensive. High housing costs, high childcare costs, high electricity costs, unreliable transportation. Remote work flexibilities, as wonderful as they have been, also have changed dynamics within a workforce. And how do we work with that, particularly when people have an ability to work from any number of places? We've got the impact of inflation, economic insecurity, and the strain of labor shortages and layoffs. We know that it hasn't been easy. I think the question is, what are we going to do? And as I say, Massachusetts is a great state, and now is the time for all of us to come together in partnership to get out and get after it, to hustle and to win.
The workforce numbers should give everyone from employers to policymakers pause, because the decisions workers make today will have a dramatic impact on the economy of tomorrow. At AIM, we believe that Massachusetts will thrive only with a commitment to inclusive economic growth that brings as many people as possible into the workforce and leaves no one behind. Solving the workforce crisis will require a comprehensive effort to address issues on multiple fronts. We must moderate costs for both employers and workers who might otherwise move elsewhere. We must ensure that our education system provides all students, especially those in underserved communities, with the skills needed to share in the Commonwealth's economic prosperity. We must find ways to integrate more qualified immigrants and their dreams into Massachusetts' world-renowned education institutions and entrepreneurial companies. And we must reimagine the entire structure of work in a manner that incorporates the new ways in which our employees interact with our companies. AIM, the preeminent business association in Massachusetts, is pleased to make specific proposals as part of the effort to solve the workforce dilemma. We support reduction of the individual income tax rate to attract and retain workers. 10 states reduced their individual income tax rates last year. Massachusetts should do the same. We support accelerating the development of new housing to moderate the cost our employees must pay to buy or rent homes and establish roots. We are particularly supportive of housing developments located near mass transit to address the Commonwealth's persistent transportation gridlock. We support the improvement and expansion of vocational education, training, and industry apprenticeships. We support simplification and streamlining of the fragmented Massachusetts workforce training system. The Commonwealth has developed hundreds of career readiness and training initiatives stretched across scores of agencies, 15 community colleges, and other institutions with little overall strategy to tie them together. We support Governor Healey's Mass Reconnect initiative, which would fund community college certificates and degrees for state residents who are 25 years old and older who have not earned a college degree. Students could pursue either certificates or degrees, depending on which would better serve their career goals. We continue to support our own Pink Slip initiative launched last year to help employers implement policies that encourage women who left the workforce during the pandemic to return. We acknowledge that the childcare system in Massachusetts remains expensive, fragile, and vulnerable, the number of available seats for young children has fallen by as much as 20% since the onset of the pandemic, and it's not clear whether those seats will return. We support growing efforts by employers to address credential inflation and to rethink which jobs require a college education. We support federal policy to expand immigration of qualified workers from abroad. The backlog of qualified immigrants waiting for legal permanent residence in the US established a record last year, more than 9 million. Nearly all of these immigrants are qualified for legal permanent residence. They can pass a background check and have a family member or an employer to sponsor them. We support efforts by employers to solve the workforce issues from the inside out. With companies no longer able to rely on a steady source of external talent, internal mobility becomes critical. Not only can it help fill talent gaps, especially for niche roles, it can also prevent attrition by providing employees with opportunities to learn, develop, and grow. Organizations can build internal mobility through specialized training, coaching, and development programs. They can also invest in new technologies to surface existing skills. We support inclusive hiring, which allows employers to tap into a wider talent pool, making it easier to hire quality candidates quickly, even for difficult and hard to source roles. What is important now is how quickly a person can learn and how agile she or he is to meet the evolving needs of the marketplace, not where they studied for a degree. The governor has shared some of her own proposals to ensure that Massachusetts remains an attractive place to live and to work.
A commitment to build more housing across this state. There isn't a region that isn't suffering. Rents are too high, housing costs too high. We need to build more housing, period. A federal funding team that we're going to establish that will be focused, laser focused on getting every available dollar from the federal government for transportation, housing, workforce development, and infrastructure. Support for legislative action to make sure families can afford childcare and that our care workers are paid what they deserve. Harnessing our academic institutions, community colleges, vocational schools, and other job training programs to accelerate our clean energy economy and create a climate corridor that stretches from the Berkshires to Barnstable.
What ties all these disparate ideas together is a rethinking of the very nature of work and the relationships those jobs create between an employer and an increasingly limited pool of employees. It places a premium on companies that become the employer of choice in an increasingly competitive market for workers. We used to think about work in terms of jobs, but with the nature and structure of work changing rapidly, this may no longer be helpful. Successful organizations are shifting their thinking toward the capabilities needed to win in their marketplace. Here's the good news. Massachusetts is filled with successful organizations. The Commonwealth's employer community has a long history of innovation, toughness, and perseverance that has carried us through similar challenges in the past and will enable us to meet the moment on the workforce as well. Through strategic modeling of future workforce options, these companies clarify the future roles, skills, and mindsets to deliver their strategy. They then focus on sourcing and developing these through reskilling, upskilling, recruitment, or drawing on the wider gig economy of flexible workers. Stay with us because we are about to meet several AIM members that are using creativity and innovation to ensure that they attract and retain the employees they need to grow in the years to come. In the meantime, AIM looks forward to working with others who have their own good ideas on how to address this issue. But one thing is certain, there is no time to lose. Thank you.